The world remembers Ingrid Bergman as the luminous face of Casablanca, the eternal symbol of grace under pressure. But the woman behind the close-ups was a storm of contradictions, adored by millions yet haunted by a loneliness she could never fully articulate. When she died on her 67th birthday in 1982, the world mourned the actress. But when her family finally opened her private diaries and memoirs, they gasped. Hidden between the lines of her public triumphs and her infamous scandals was a confession about a secret love so powerful, so massive in her memory, that she had buried it for nearly 40 years. She wrote only 4 words to describe him, *ele era enorme. It wasn't a reference to his height, though he was tall. It was a reference to his presence, to the way he filled every room and every corner of her heart. This was a man she never named publicly during her life, a chapter she ripped out of the official narrative to protect him and herself. Who was this ghost of Hollywood's golden age? And why did the most famous woman in the world choose to take the secret to her grave? To understand the secret, we must return to the wreckage of Ingrid's childhood. Born in Stockholm in 1915, Ingrid was a child of loss. Her mother died when she was just 3 years old. Her father, a struggling artist who adored her, died when she was 13. Orphaned and shunted between relatives, the shy, gangly girl escaped into the fantasy of the stage. "I didn't act to be seen," she once wrote in a private diary. "I acted to survive." That survival instinct took her to Hollywood in 1939. Unlike the peroxide blonde vamps of the era, Ingrid arrived raw, natural, and fiercely intelligent. She became David O. Selznick's prized protégé. Yet, despite the Oscars for Gaslight and the immortality of Casablanca, Ingrid was miserable. Her marriage to Dr. Petter Lindström was a prison of control. He managed her money, controlled her schedule, and treated her like a possession rather than a partner. By 1945, she was suffocating. She was the saint of American cinema, a woman so pure that the press would later crucify her for the sin of falling in love. But just before the fall, there was a flicker of forbidden joy, the set of Alfred Hitchcock's Spellbound. This is where the man walks in. Gregory Peck was 29 years old. He was already a giant 6'3", with a jawline that could cut glass and the quiet dignity of a cowboy poet. He was the opposite of the controlling Lindström. Where her husband was rigid, Peck was gentle. Hitchcock, ever the voyeur of the human condition, saw the chemistry immediately. The film required Ingrid, as a psychiatrist, to kiss and embrace Peck, her amnesiac patient. But the cameras captured something beyond acting. There is a moment in Spellbound where Ingrid holds Peck's face in her hands. The negative film stock burned with heat. For decades, the affair was a whispered rumor. Both were married. Both were public property. The myth of old Hollywood insists that studio heads could bury any secret for a price. But secrets this intense have a way of leaking through the cracks. In her memoir, My Story, co-written with Alan Burgess, Ingrid is remarkably candid about her hunger for love, but she dances around the name of her co-star. Yet, the clues are devastating. She describes a man who was shy but strong, who treated her not like a goddess, but like a lost girl who needed a hug. She wrote about the nights during the filming of Spellbound. While the rest of the crew went home, they would stay late, rehearsing lines that quickly turned into confessions. She confessed to him the coldness of her marriage. He confessed the pressure of sudden fame. But here is the twist Ingrid kept hidden: she was the one who ended it. History assumes that the man walked away, that the rising star, Peck, was too virtuous to break up a family. The truth, buried in the drafts of her autobiography, was the opposite. Ingrid wrote that she looked at Gregory one evening and realized that if she didn't stop, she would destroy him. He had a reputation for being a good man, a moral man, she wrote. I was already a volcano about to erupt. I couldn't take him down with me. So she fabricated a lie. She told Peck she felt nothing for him. She turned cold. She watched his face fall, and she walked away. She knew that in a few years, she would meet Roberto Rossellini, the Italian director who would ruin her career. She knew the scandal was coming. She sacrificed her chance with the giant to save his soul. Peck, heartbroken and confused, went back to his wife. He never knew the truth until he read her memoirs after her death. In 1987, 5 years after Ingrid died, Gregory Peck finally broke his silence. Talking to People magazine, he admitted the truth of Spellbound. Looking back at the woman he lost, he said softly, "I had a real love for her." I think you fall in love a little bit with a woman like Ingrid Bergman. I don't think there's any way to avoid it. He described her skin, her radiance, her sweetness. But then he stopped. He couldn't bring himself to say the rest. Because in her book, Ingrid had already said it for him. She had preserved him in amber. She wrote that he was a norm not just in body, but in spirit. He was the one who got away not because of fate, but because of her own design. Ingrid Bergman died believing she had made the right choice. She went on to marry Rossellini, giving birth to Isabella Rossellini, but the affair destroyed her reputation in America. She was denounced on the Senate floor as a promoter of evil. She lost everything: her home, her standing, her country. Yet, through the exile, the cancer, and the eventual return to glory, winning a third Oscar for Murder on the Orient Express, the ghost of Gregory Peck remained. In the final pages of my story, she returns to the theme of size and presence. She reveals that years later, long after their affair had cooled, she saw Gregory Peck at a party in New York. They were both older. His hair was gray. She was ill. She wrote that she watched him across the room and felt the same vertigo she felt at 29. I wanted to go to him, she wrote. I wanted to tell him that I lied. That I never stopped. But I saw his wife. I saw his children. And I realized that the size of a man is not measured by his height, but by the size of the shadow he leaves on your memory. That is the confession. Era enorme. It was never just a physical description. It was the admission of a lifetime of regret. She carried the weight of that secret love, the enormous love she sacrificed for honor, all the way to her grave in Stockholm. The world saw a superstar. But inside, she was just a girl who lost her parents too young, who met a giant, and who let him go to save him from the fire.